Good morning from Hopalong Hollow. Today, for our early morning coffee walk, we are looking at the front yard garden, which once upon a time was all lawn. I started in that little corner back there, and I just worked my way all the way around until the entire front area here along the walkway was nothing but a cottage garden. And here you see the little pink primroses are growing, the yellow primroses too. Primroses, evening primrose that is, not primroses, not to be confused with the spring primroses, a completely different plant. Here are a couple dahlias that came back from last year. Hallelujah, the moles didn't get those. That's good. But the primroses are great, and the penstemons as well are just starting to open, so they're not putting on a very glorious show at the moment, but they will. But the great thing about both of these plants is after they've bloomed, you just cut them way, way down. They'll come back up again, and you will get a second bloom on these perennials. One thing we don't appreciate often in our gardens is the fact that there are 100 shades of green in your garden, different leaf shapes and plant shapes. So it's not just about the blooms, it's about the different shades of green that you get, because most of the time that's what you're going to have is the green. Things just don't stay in bloom forever, and the colors change, and the garden doesn't all pop at the same time. So it's going to be different stages in the garden, but you're always going to have that green. So the shapes of the leaves, the different shades of emerald green and lime green and sage green, all contribute, and the fern-like leaves that you can see down there on that yarrow, all these different shapes. And then the seed pods are always so interesting, and those are little shades of green too on this muscari, also known as grape hyacinth. And I just keep those because they're so interesting. They're just as interesting as a flower. An example of all the different leaf colors in a garden. So here we have a liriope, which will bloom at the end of the summer in little purple flowers. Oh, we got some weeds I've got to get out of here. But then there's this beautiful grayish green of the sedum. And here we have some more little ground roses blooming among the rudbeckia and violets. And of course the ever-present creeping Charlie. This rose here, this climbing rose here, is a rugosa, Rosa rugosa, that I planted many, many years ago, and it's doing great. So you may be wondering, why did you put this beautiful rose back here in the back where nobody can see it? Well, this eventually should become a 5-foot shrub, 5 to 7 foot shrub. You might just have to bring these in the house to enjoy them. And imagine this as a large rose bush just climbing 5 to 6 feet tall. Next to that, a hollyhock, and next to that, a rose of Sharon, and next to that, some phlox. So you see, my gardens really are a menagerie. This is another one that will climb all the way up this old windmill. And this is Tess of the D'Urbervilles. So far, no buds on it, but remember that these were planted as dry bare root roses just a few weeks ago. So they're doing really, really great. I can show you another clematis. I think this is Jackmani. Very common clematis. Also something that's been growing here for years and years and years. And that is honeysuckle. I didn't plant that. That's a native. The walkway, I cannot believe the height of these Canterbury bells. I never dreamed they would get 4 foot tall. I never dreamed. If I had known that, I'm not sure I would have planted them along the sidewalk. But I don't know. Once these bloom, these are bell shapes, Canterbury bells they're called. They are really going to be a sensational look as you walk along this front pathway, I think. And they will be pinks and purples. At least I hope there are going to be some pinks in there, not just purple. Oh, I think one's opening down there. I'll have to go look at that in a minute. turn around here and look at the peony bed, which has 3 different kinds of peonies in here in this shade garden. And a Japanese maple and a lot of ivy, which I used as a fence, basically. I planted the ivy. Unfortunately, I see some poison ivy here too. I used cattle panel to surround this garden, and then I put the ivy to grow as sort of like a living fence on it. Did very, very well, except for this section here, which is fine because now I can see the flowers. These are all peonies. They've been blooming now for about a week. Pretty sensational. What a wonderful flower, and such an easy plant to grow from a root. And this is one of those plants that will reward you for many, many years. This is a shade garden, so liatris and irises go in here, Siberian iris, wild roses, and lace cap hydrangea here. There are some opening Canterbury bells, and these ones are purple. And look at the size. They're actually pretty big blooms. Just wait till this whole thing opens up. That'll be lovely. Well, since we're looking at peonies right now, I wanted to come out here to this garden, the one that I'm restoring. And I wanted to show you these beautiful peonies, because these are just out of this world. And of course, they would have to bloom before I'm finished restoring the garden. But they are just amazingly huge. Just look at the size of that. And they have such a beautiful scent. But I had to get a shot of these before they're gone, because I'll tell you, flowers sometimes don't last very long in the garden. And that's why I said that it's good to appreciate the color of the leaves and the shapes of the leaves and the forms of the plants. Because sometimes if you don't go check your garden frequently, you may completely miss the show. There have been times when I completely missed the bloom of these peonies because I didn't come out into this garden for a couple days or so. And by the time I noticed that they had bloomed, they were nothing but petals fallen on the ground. You see little ants taking a stroll all over your peony buds and all over your peony petals. Don't worry about it. I read somewhere that they're actually good in helping to open up the blooms. Now, I don't know, that's an old wives' tale, but I do know this. All these blooms have opened, they're all beautiful, and the little ants have been having all kinds of wonderful walks throughout petals and the blooms. See, there they are. Maybe some of you know about that. Let us know. Well, that's this morning's coffee walk. Thank you for coming again, and we'll see you next time in Hopalong Hollow. Bye.